Hello everyone, I am Gabe, and welcome to the exciting conclusion to the Pokemon Amber series and the box legendaries. Before we get there, here's what happened last time. You caught a legendary trio and picked up the last remaining legendary shards. This will let you get to our box legendaries. Alright, first thing is first. You hightail it back to Santa's own lab. When you visit Professor Ginkgo's office on top of the building, the dormant legendary is still hovering in the middle of the room, all goopy and weird and everything. As you approach, the legendary fairy trio that you recently caught emerge from their Pokeballs and circle around their dormant creator. They do a cute little dance, and the blob of ooze shudders and slowly unfolds before you. Now, initially going into this project, I had really only planned on there being one legendary, so this one was added right before I started with all of the scripts and whatnot. I knew that I needed to have a second legendary, but I just could not find a good counterpoint to what I already had planned. Spoiler alert if you haven't figured it out, but the other legendary that is lying in a crater is an extinction-themed legendary. So it took me a little bit of time to figure out what this design would be. I mean, the tough thing is that I can't just do creation or life because the other legendary isn't death, it's specifically extinction. Specifically the process of a species dying out. So, what keeps a species from dying out? Well, adapting to the environment. So, this will be the adaptation legendary. Also, kind of the natural selection Pokemon. The other thing that this let me do was squeeze in another typing. Now, when I came up with this, Grafaiai didn't exist yet, so we were covering an unused type. We'll be dealing with a normal and poison type here. And as much as I love Grafaiai, it's not particularly deserving of the normal type. It could have just as easily been a mono poison type. So what I was going for here is something that thematically kind of needs to be both normal and poison. With natural selection, you have your mutations, poison type, that are hopefully advantageous and become part of the functioning organism, normal type. A little out there, but just go with me here. Now, as far as the design goes, I wanted something that felt like the leader of the fairy type legendary trio. And that's where this humanoid build came from, and the expressionless mask-like face. The poison on its body also let me do a really fun asymmetrical design, which, again, you don't always get to do with Pokemon. That goo may look pretty familiar as it's the basis of the pseudo-legendary line, little Fossage, Sludgeolum, and Carnotox. Just a fun bit of lore connecting them. Alright, let's meet our first box legendary. This is Mutaneo, the adaptation Pokemon. Researchers are still studying this Pokemon's poisonous body. The strange gelatinous spikes are always quivering and shifting into new biological structures. While the slime is still potentially destructive, Mutaneo can also accelerate beneficial mutations in itself and others. Though large and intimidating, it seeks to aid Pokemon in need. If ill-adapted to an environment, Mutaneo will help change their biology. And its ability is something new that I am calling Mutation. And that means that a random one of the Pokemon's stats will increase by one stage every turn. Mutaneo thanks you for waking it from its slumber and respectfully engages you in battle. It's tough, obviously, and its ability makes it a bit unpredictable to deal with. You catch it, nice work, and you decide to head down the elevator to the underwater Senazone lab. It took some time, traipsing all over the region, but you are excited to return the last of the legendary shards to their containment cell. You plop them in there, but after you do so, your rival Grant turns to you. His eyes glow with the same light you had seen once in Professor Ginkgo's.
Thank you so much. Looks like you've managed to return all the remaining pieces. You see, I've realized it was foolish to want to leave this Pokemon in slumber forever.
Frustrated with your mentors and friends continually being possessed by this legendary Pokemon, you battle Grant in hopes of ending all of this. Grant's team is extremely formidable now. He uses an Ankylotus, friendly and tanky as ever, Flytor, intelligent and speedy, Spinosaur, aggressive and ferocious, a Quetzalcoatl with its pretty awesome typing, an Evian that is constantly changing its type, and a Carnotox, which is terrifying and goopy. But you manage to defeat Grant. He stumbles backwards in anger and manages to press the button opening the legendary rock's containment cell. They all sail over and rejoin the ball of rock. The earth shakes beneath your feet, and it rises out of its crater, fully formed again. We've had a bunch of people clamoring for an asteroid Pokemon, and here we finally are. I mean, I knew early on that we had to have an asteroid. I mean, it kind of had to be the big bad legendary. It's also letting us knock out the final unused type combination, Rock and Ghost. Yep, across the Pokemon Amber series, we have covered every single unused type combination, and this final Pokemon of the dex is the last piece of that puzzle. An asteroid Pokemon could definitely be, rock and fire just as easily, but with this being our big bad and being so closely tied to death and extinction, the ghost type is absolutely perfect. The only thing that I was a little unsure of going in was what to do with the tail. In my initial sketch, it was just a trail of fire, kind of colored all ghosty, but I eventually landed on something a little more wispy and ethereal. And yeah, it ended up turning out pretty freaking sweet, if I do say so myself. Also, like its counterpart, it was fun to just get a touch of asymmetry, with the crumbling bits of rock. Yeah, rock types, they lend themselves pretty well to subtle variability like this. And I will say, it's a little bit of extra work, but doing the colored line work really elevates the rendering. For these two in particular, it takes what would normally be an extremely limited color palette for these legendaries and just makes them pop. Okay, enough talk, let's check out Spectrect, the extinction Pokemon. This malicious Pokemon destroyed all life in the Palean region millions of years ago, and sat in a dormant state at the bottom of the ocean. Spectrect's overwhelming ghost-type energy leaves it with an unwavering desire to obliterate natural life. Researchers are uncertain if this Pokemon could ever be tamed, and its ability is Decay. This is a new one, and it's basically the opposite of what Mutineo has, so that lowers a random stat of an opposing Pokemon every turn. And with no other choice, you engage in battle. Like Mutineo, its ability is unpredictable and a bit of a pain to deal with, but eventually, you capture the legendary Pokemon. And with that, you have encountered every Pokemon in the Palean region and saved the freaking day. Alright, I just want to say thank you all, especially to those of you who have been watching since the beginning. This project has been a ton of work, but extremely rewarding, and I couldn't have done it without all of your feedback, suggestions, and enthusiasm. And don't worry, this channel doesn't stop here. I've got more in the works, some really good stuff that's still a secret. But just thank you for making it all the way through this project with me, and be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Later, nerds.